This is the Morik Show.
Hello, fans of all ages. Thank you once again for tuning into the show. This is indeed the Morik podcast, Morik Show, whatever you want to call it. This is episode number lucky 13. And I'll tell you why this episode is lucky number 13. A, because number 13. B, the MLB winter meetings in San Diego are, wow. They are heating up like wildfire. And with all the news that is broken, it doesn't feel like the MLB offseason anymore. Sadly, it is. We have to wait, about another 2 months or so until pitchers and catchers, but it's gone by pretty quickly, I'd say. But with all that in mind, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Some Yankees moves, some Dodgers moves, basically every team has made some big move. But we're going to start with the Yankees. The man who people say is the next Derek Jeter is replacing Derek Jeter. The Yankees traded for shortstop Didi Gregorius from the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Yankees got rid of Shane Green. They sent him to Detroit, I can't remember his name right now, but they sent someone else to Arizona. I'm not a fan of this trade yet. I don't like it. Didi Gregorius right now, before I get started, I'm not asking for another Derek Jeter. I'm not asking for a 3-10 hitter. I'm not asking for a guy to be an immediate impact on the field and in the clubhouse. I'm not asking for another Derek Jeter. I'm not asking for some all-star stud shortstop who's going to win you a World Series this year. But the Yankees already have a player like Didi Gregorius. His name is Brendan Ryan. Brendan Ryan, solid glove, can hit. Didi Gregorius, so far in the majors, can hit, great glove. And on top of that, they got rid of Shane Green, who, with the Yankees right now, in their current rotation, if everyone stays healthy, is a 4 or 5 starter at best. But this guy showed a lot of promise for the Yankees. I mean, when the entire rotation went down, Shane Green was great. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better job by this guy. He and Whitley and whoever else who never pitched an inning in the pros, they pitched very decently. And they got rid of Shane Green, and they got Brendan Ryan too. I don't like it. I mean, the upside is that this guy has a great glove. He batted .310 in AAA at one point. And it's good because in recent memory, especially with the Yankees, people who go from a bad team, to say the least, who get traded to the Yankees, wind up doing pretty well. Ichiro did not perform well in Seattle the year he got traded to the Yankees, and he was a big impact that year. And he's been probably one of their best hitters the past 2.5 years. Martin Prado batted 300 after the trade deadline. Brandon McCarthy, who just signed with the Dodgers for 4 years, $48 million. That deal is because he did so well with the Yankees. Chase Headley didn't do too great with his Yankee stint, but he was batting, .239 when he was on San Diego. And I think his stint with the Yankees, he was like 260, 270, something. He was around that area. So I guess when you get traded to a historically great team like the Yankees, there's something in your mind that clicks and says, wow, I really have a chance to win. And I guess it just makes you play better. I wouldn't know. I'm not a pro baseball player. Nothing's clicked in my head like that. But I guess something clicks. And I'm hoping that can happen to Didi Gregorius because the Yankees' highest average last year was 271. Why didn't they make the postseason last year? Because they couldn't hit. They need a hitter. They need a guy who can get on base. In my opinion, this deal is a success. You won't know what this deal is a success until after this year, maybe even 2-3 years down the road. If he bats this year, like 260, gets on base maybe 340, 350, and a 400 OPS, 400 slugging percentage, it's a good deal for now. Not an awesome deal, but what more can you ask from a 25-year-old shortstop who's played in 200 career games? Not even. You aren't expecting much. I'm not expecting much from this guy. I think everyone's expecting him to hit just around 250. But this guy is a career, 243 hitter in the pros. Last year he had 226. If he's batting 226 this year, the Yankees cannot afford that. Yes, they'll be able to save runs because the guy has a great glove, and he's going to be their everyday shortstop. And when he doesn't play, they'll have Brendan Ryan in, who's going to save runs also. But you can't win games if you don't score runs. It's that simple. Baseball is not like how it is 10, 15 years ago, where you got to win these 6-5, 7-6 games. Nowadays, you're winning games 2-1, 3-2, 1-0, 2-0. You're winning close games that don't have a lot of run production. But either way, they got to score runs. They couldn't hit last year. Their average, the league average, is 251, I think. I think the Yankees' average was probably around that area. Their highest average was Jacoby Ellsbury, 271. And honestly, Jacoby's average last year is a little bit skewed because April and midway through May, he was batting 337, something like that. He went 0 for his next 70, and then he went on another streak, and then he went down again. I mean, the guy was streaky all year. Same thing with Jeter. Jeter was batting I think he was batting like 275 at one point, maybe 280. And then he went 3 for his last 60 toward late in the year. That's the only reason why he batted 255. Either way, this guy, again, not expecting a 300 hitter like Derek Jeter. Because the Yankees, honestly, no one on the Yankees is batting 300 this year. I really don't think anyone on the Yankees is batting 300 this year. If anyone, it's Ellsbury and Gardner. That's it. Maybe Martin Prado because he did really well for the Yankees. That's it. I mean, the two best guys on the Yankees right now are Ellsbury and Gardner, I think, offensively. Again, you can't ask for this guy to bat 300, 280, 270. You're probably going to get somewhere between 240 and 260. Hopefully, it's on the higher end of the 260 mark. Then, this year would be a good deal. Another deal the Yankees made, this one I love. I love this deal. Andrew Miller, 4 years, $36 million. This is the Yankees' best signing I can't say a while because they went off last year with McCann and Tanaka and Ellsbury and Beltran. But this is a great signing, especially now that they lost David Robertson to Chicago. This is the same exact deal that the Yankees made after the 1996 season. John Wetland was the closer. He either won World Series MVP or ALCS MVP, I'm not sure. It might have been World Series MVP in 96. They got rid of him. They didn't want to pay him. And they figured Mariano Rivera can do John Wetland's job in the closing role. Mariano did a pretty good job, I guess. This year, they're doing away with Robertson, which I'll get into later. They're probably, at this point, unless if they sign Sergio Romo or Rafael Soriano or I don't even know if any other big-time closers are on the market. But for right now, you assume Betances is moving to the ninth inning and Andrew Miller, a dominant lefty, who kills everyone in the AL East, is your 7th and 8th inning guy. The Yankees, I don't remember the last time they had a dominant lefty in the bullpen. Dellin Betances throws 100 miles an hour, and he gets with an 82-mile-an-hour breaking ball. Last year was probably the greatest year I've ever seen out of a reliever in Yankees history. It was unbelievable. I mean, he crushed Mariano's strikeout record. He had over, 170? As a reliever. I don't think it was once. It was a lot. He had a lot of strikeouts. He blew people away. I remember they were playing Detroit. I think it was in that big 4-game series in August. And he blew Miggy away. 100 miles an hour, painting outside corner every time. Blew him away. Dellin Betances is a freak. He was 3rd place in AL Rookie of the Year voting as a reliever. So this guy moving to the closing role, you assume, is phenomenal. And I had no problem with David Robertson last year. I thought David Robertson was incredible. And if he were on the Yankees, I would say put him in the closing role because he's comfortable in that position. And I think Dellin Betances is very comfortable in the 8th inning position. But now that Betances is the closer, you're not expecting Mariano-like things, although you got them last year from Betances. And Robertson, if you look at his stats, they were incredible. And I have Andrew Miller in the 7th and 8th inning. Good, dominant lefty, gets a lot of guys out. And they have a lot of depth in their bullpen. They re-signed Esmo Rogers, I think. They have last year their bullpen was one of their strengths. I can't think of exact names because they used so many guys. People were going up and down from the minors, whatever. But with that bullpen, especially Miller, who can go with 2 innings, because he wasn't really a center man or a closer. He was just like a bullpen guy. Like you just put him in there when you needed a couple of outs. That was Andrew Miller's role with Boston and Baltimore last year. With CeCe, Tanaka, and Pineda, all question marks because CeCe, you assume he's going to be healthy, but you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Tanaka is going to get Tommy John by June. Pineda has never been healthy. Nova isn't coming back until June. They don't really have the Yankees don't have a solid rotation. And I'll get into that later because I think they should sign Scherzer. But again, that'll wait. The Yankees don't have to push for these guys to go 7, 8 innings. You hope for 6 innings out of the starter, and then Miller 7th or 8th, or one guy pitches 7th, or a couple guys pitches 7th for righty-lefty. Miller in the 8th, Betances in the 9th. You're done. That's ideal. That is ideal for the Yankees. Andrew Miller was a phenomenal signing. Phenomenal. So the Yankees MLB winter meetings, I shouldn't say winter because D&D was before the winter meetings. But anyway, off-season moves so far for the Yankees, I'm going to give them a solid B+. If I really like the Didi Gregorius trade, it would be an A. And maybe it'll turn out to be an A this year, 2 years from now. But right now, it's a solid B+. We'll go B+. You're just hoping for Didi Gregorius to hit. I mean, the guy's 24 years old. He's turning 25 in February. And the Yankees said they wanted Rollins, they wanted D. Gordon, and I'm sure they wanted Hanley Ramirez also. And Brian Cashman said Didi Gregorius is better for the long term. And I agree. I mean, you going from a 40-year-old shortstop to a 36-year-old shortstop, and Jimmy Rollins, who batted, I don't even know. The guy was not that good last year. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help you. It's good to get a quick, defensive, young shortstop who you can teach. Because just because he's 24 years old, he's not hitting right now, the guy can be taught. And the Yankees are going to get a new hitting coach because they fired Kevin Long. This guy is going to be a coachable player, and he's going to learn. And you hope that he starts hitting. Look at Omar Vizquel. When he was young, the guy batted he was like D.D. Gregorius. Literally, you can compare the two. Vizquel was like 220, 225. Omar Vizquel holds the all-time record for most games played at shortstop. He batted 285, 290 later on in his career. Arguably a Hall of Famer in a couple of years. Not saying D.D. Gregorius is going to bat 290, 285 anytime soon or be a Hall of Famer, but it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible for this guy to improve, and I hope he does. I think he will. And again, with Andrew Miller, great signing. That bullpen has improved despite losing David Robertson, which I'm going to discuss in a second. But I think this bullpen is great. And I really like what they're doing. I like how they can limit the starters, and I like how they can go extended periods of time with the bullpen. Now, moving on to David Robertson. He signed to the Chicago White Sox for 4 years. It was somewhere in the $40 million range. As soon as the Yankees signed Andrew Miller, I knew right away that David Robertson was gone. The Yankees offered Robertson a $15.3 million deal for 1 year, and he turned it down. And Robertson said he wanted Papelbon money. The Yankees were not giving him that. The Yankees wanted Andrew Miller since the day their season ended. They knew that Andrew Miller was their go-to guy and a shortstop, which they got. Robertson was not going back to the Yankees as soon as they signed Miller. If the Yankees got Robertson, they would have the best bullpen in the league. Miller, Betances, Robertson, that's insane, but that's almost too perfect to be true. The White Sox that was a great move that they made, and they're making a lot of good moves. They got Adam LaRoche from Washington. They got Jeff Samardzija, which we'll get into. Samardzija. They got him, and they got David Robertson. I mean, their pitching staff has improved. Their offense is that was a good signing for LaRoche because Konerko is gone now. I like what the White Sox are doing. And as much as I wish the Yankees had re-signed Robertson, it wasn't worth giving Andrew Miller $9 million a year and David Robertson $10, $11, $12 million a year. It just wasn't worth it. And I think doing away with Robertson was a good plan, and I'm really excited for Robertson. I hope he does well. I really liked him. He was a great the guy was absolutely phenomenal. No one can compare to Mariano Rivera. Ever. The guy was the best at what he's doing, the best at his position, and if anyone's going to be unanimous in the Hall of Fame, it should be him. But his ERA is a little inflated because of a couple bad outings. His last blown save was Derek Jeter's walk-off. He let up 3 runs in that inning. So ERA a little fluctuated. Whenever he would blow a save, Girardi would just leave him out, and he would just crash. Strikeouts per 9 innings, 13.4. His strikeout-to-walk ratio, 4.17. His whip, just over 1.05. Strikeouts, 96. What else? He pitched 64 innings. He had 63 appearances. I think 44 of them were save opportunities, so he only had 5 blown saves, 39 saves. At one point, his strikeout-to-walk ratio, his strikeout per 9 was, I think, a major league best, and he almost made you forget about Mariano Rivera for this year. He really almost did. David Robertson was phenomenal, and yes, whenever he had a blown save, it was pretty bad. I remember I was talking to someone on Twitter a while ago. It was the day McCann hit a walk-off home run. Robertson blew that save, and everyone was saying, if the Yankees are out of the postseason by 5 games, you can blame Robertson, blah, blah, blah. First of all, a blown save does not automatically count as a loss because Brian McCann hit a walk-off. Derek Jeter, walk-off on a blown save. So that argument is just invalid, first of all. Second of all, David Robertson he was great. The guy was great. Yeah, sure, his record was 4-5. Who judges a pitcher based on their record only? Look at him in previous years when he was the setup man. 2011 All-Star, 1.08. 2012, 2.67. 2013, 2.04. Strikeouts per 9 in each of those years, starting from 2011. 13.5, 12.0, 10.4, 13.4. Strikeouts per walk has been over 4 every year except 2011. That year, he was an All-Star. He was 11th place in Cy Young votings and 22nd in MVP. I know that sounds like a little bit of a stretch, but when you're talked about in Cy Young and MVP votings as a setup man, you did a really nice job. Props for the White Sox for stepping up. They got a really good reliever, one of the best in the league. And I wish him the best of luck in Chicago. Speaking of Chicago, the Cubs are going to be a 500 team this year. Write it down. Young talent. Baez, Rizzo. I can't name everyone on their team, but they have young talent. Joe Maddon is now their new manager. And they just signed John Lester for 6 years, $150-some million. They had 73 wins last year. Javier Baez didn't come up until, June, July-ish? And now they got Lester. The Cubs are going to be a 500 team this year. If not, they're going to be 79, 80 wins. So they're going to be close. The Cubs are not going to contend for the postseason. They're not going to contend for a World Series. But they might make the postseason within the next couple of years, especially with John Lester as your ace and Joe Maddon as a manager. Joe Maddon is my favorite manager in the big leagues. He is incredible. He turned the A's around. They were the laughing stock of the MLB. And then they went from worst to first. They won the AL East in 2008. They won the pennant in 2008. They made the World Series after not even being... They had been founded 10 years prior. They were an expansion team that were founded in 1998. I'm older than the Tampa Bay Rays, guys. Joe Maddon is incredible. His defensive mechanisms are insane. The guy shifts for righties. You don't see that very often. I think the Cubs made a great decision in getting Maddon, and they did a really nice job with getting Lester. I really thought Lester was going to the Red Sox. I thought the Red Sox said, hey, we're trading you for Cespedes. This season's over. We want you to try to get a postseason appearance, and then we'll get you back. And the Red Sox definitely tried as hard as they can. But I think Lester has my mindset. I really do. And on top of that, you're getting $150 million. He's getting paid $25 million over the next 6 years, I think. I mean, how can you turn that down? And Chicago, no less. Great city, great people. I mean, good job for the Cubs. And I like Lester. I mean, I'm just glad he's out of the American League because he would destroy the Yankees. I feel like every time the Yankees played Lester, it was they lost. I went to a Yankee game. Lester was pitching at a no-hitter through 5, I think. The Yankees just couldn't hit him. No one. And he's going to have that impact in the NL Central. He's going to have a big impact for the Cubs. And I think he's going to lead them to a 500 season. And I think he's going to lead them to the postseason in his tenure with the Cubs. Staying in topic with the Boston Red Sox, we just talked about Yoenis Cespedes, and he's not a Red Sox anymore. The Sox traded Cespedes for Richard Porcello, and I think this is a great move for the Red Sox. When you look at the numbers with Cespedes since he got traded, you look at it and say, what are the Red Sox doing? But then you think about it in the bigger picture. They got Pablo Sandoval. They got Hanley Ramirez. They need a pitcher. Cespedes, they have a ton of outfielders. They have Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Brock Holt could play the outfield. They have so many. They have so many outfielders. They didn't need Cespedes. I mean, yeah, Cespedes was responsible for 25% of the Red Sox RBIs when he got traded. And Cespedes took big advantage of that green monster. His doubles would have increased a lot. His RBIs would have increased a lot. But they didn't need him. And from what I hear, he is a cancer in the clubhouse. That's what I've heard from a few Red Sox fans. I'm sure they know a lot more about Yoenis Cespedes than I do. And on top of that, Cespedes is overrated. He's an overrated baseball player. The guy was batting .255 before he left Oakland. He only batted .270, I think, in Boston. The only good thing about him is that if he gets a pitch to hit, he'll crush it 500 yards, and the guy has a cannon. But again, the Red Sox have outfielders. They got hitters in Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez. This is a great trade for the Red Sox, and I think the Tigers made a good trade too. They're getting a powerful hitter. That lineup is Miggy, Vmart, Cespedes. That 3-4-5 is insane. It's unbelievable. The only downside to that is that it's 3 righties, but who cares? That's 3 guys. If you throw them a strike, they're going to hit a bomb and a half. I think the Tigers off. Miggy is going to probably bet 320. Vmart probably will bet 320. Yoenis Cespedes not going to bet 320, maybe 250, 260 again. But again, if you give him a pitch to hit, he's going to hit a bomb. I thought this is a great trade for both teams, especially the Red Sox. And on top of that, the Red Sox got Wade Miley from Arizona, I think. So they're slowly building up this pitching staff, and they have to because they missed out on Lester. They're going to try to pursue Scherzer, I'm sure. And that's it. I mean, good for the Red Sox. I'm going to be scared of Boston when the season starts. I already am. Because they're improving a lot. Another big blockbuster trade happened. I went to sleep last night at 4 o'clock in the morning. And if I had stayed up for 2 more minutes, I would have found out that Matt Kemp got traded to the Padres. I stayed up all night. I practically stayed up all night, and I missed the Matt Kemp trade by 2 minutes at 4:05 in the morning. But anyway, Matt Kemp is a Padre. I am really surprised that the Dodgers traded away Matt Kemp. They lost 2 big bats. Hanley Ramirez and Matt Kemp. I mean, who is their outfield? Puig, Crawford, Ethier, I guess now? I mean, Matt Kemp struggled for a while, and he was hurt. But last year, 287, 25 home runs, I think. The guy produced pretty well when He produced pretty well last year. When he was healthy, the guy was arguably one of the best in the league. He came in second in MVP voting in Ryan Braun's steroid MVP season. And either way, Matt Kemp should have won that MVP award, steroids or not. But anyway, the Dodgers are getting rid of Matt Kemp. They have to pay $32 million because no one was paying for Matt Kemp's entire salary. And on top of getting rid of Matt Kemp, they got rid of D. Gordon. They had this Haney guy who got traded from the Marlins to the Dodgers. He was on the Dodgers for 10 minutes, and then he got traded to the Angels. They are making a lot of moves. But good thing that they filled up those holes quickly. They got rid of D. Gordon. They got rid of Hanley Ramirez, and they filled up those holes. They got Jimmy Rollins, who now is a liability, but they needed a shortstop, and Howie Kendrick, who is a very, very underrated player. Career 290 hitter in LA with the Angels. 290. I mean, 5-6 years ago, that's not a great average, but now where pitchers are lighting people out, 290 is a solid average to have over the course of 9 years in the AL West. And on top of that, the Dodgers just signed Brandon McCarthy, like I mentioned before. But again, I think that's a big hole with getting rid of Kemp. I mean, do they still have Andre Ethier? I think so, but I don't think Matt Kemp was worth the trade. I've never heard of anyone that they got from the Padres. I mean, I don't get it. If I were a Dodger fan, I wouldn't be thrilled. And you traded him within the division, too. They traded him to the Padres. It's not like they traded him way out west, or way out east, or in the American League. They traded him to the NL West. He's staying in the same division. He's going to kill them. The Padres aren't going to kill them, but he is. The Giants, honestly, well, they lost Sandoval, but don't be surprised if the Giants catch up to the Dodgers this year in the postseason races. The Dodgers are not as good as last year anymore. I think Brandon McCarthy is getting overpaid way too much. They got rid of Kemp. They got rid of Hanley. They got rid of D. Gordon, who's a speedster on the base paths. Yeah, they filled up the holes, but it's not enough. I don't like it. I don't like what they're doing. I'll tell you what I do like, though, is what the Marlins did in getting D. Gordon. They got Matt Latos from Cincinnati. They're going to get Jose Fernandez back in May, June. Watch out for Miami. Seriously. They won 77 games last year. And I'm pretty sure they made a couple of moves a couple weeks before the winter meetings also. D. Gordon is a solid second baseman. Matt Latos is a good pitcher. They have Giancarlo Stanton. This team improved, and they won 77 games last year. I mean, I'm not saying this team is going to be a threat in that division, but if they learn how to play together, then these trades are going to work out. Matt Latos is great. D. Gordon is a solid player. I wouldn't be afraid of Miami if I'm in the division, but they might finish 500 this year. 77 games last year with no Jose Fernandez, no Matt Latos, no D. Gordon, and no Giancarlo Stanton toward the end of the year because he got hit in the face with a ball. If Giancarlo Stanton was healthy toward the end of the year, they might have finished 500. So I'm expecting at least another 77 wins this year. Who I'm not expecting a 500 year this year from? The Oakland A's. What in the world are they thinking? Samardzija, I still can't pronounce his name. Samardzija gone. Josh Donaldson, not an asset, but a great glove, and if you give him a pitch to hit, he will take it. Gone. Although they did get Brett Laurie in return. We knew they weren't going to get, John Lester back. And they got rid of Brandon Moss. There's only one explanation for this. Billy Beane is sending a message. He is sick and tired of the late season collapse every year. He's not getting a World Series this year. He's probably not even making the postseason this year. And even though he wants his ring now, he's not going to get it anytime soon. But this is his message. He's sick and tired of being a threat in the regular season, but when you're not producing in October or late September, because they went, 13-35 or something like that? When you have a collapse like that, something's going to happen. You're going to send a message to your team. And Billy Beane is saying, all right, I'm going to get rid of everyone, and I'm going to try to get all these new guys into how I run this team. He's just he's experimenting, I guess. He's experimenting with a whole new project. He experimented with this whole sabermetric system when they got rid of Damon and Isringhausen and all of them. Watch Moneyball. And he's doing it again. This is Moneyball 2. Just, he's trying to teach this whole system all over again with new guys, and he's hoping it'll work. Do I think it'll work? No. But a lot of people thought it wouldn't work back in 2002. What happened? I think they won 100 games that year. They won 20 in a row. Did they do anything in the postseason? No. And that's what Billy Beane is sick and tired of, and that's why he's doing this. I haven't talked that much baseball in I don't even know how long. I cannot wait for the season to start. But sadly, we have to wait until April. But in the meantime, we'll talk some football. We'll talk some New York Giants and some New York Jets. Starting off with the Giants. When they lost to the Jaguars, I said to myself, because Detroit's win on Thanksgiving officially knocked the Giants out of the playoffs. As soon as that happened, I said, okay, draft pick, whatever. And now that when the Giants lose, it's a better chance for a pick. But to blow a 21-0 lead to the Jaguars and lose, there are no words. I mean, this game happened, 2 weeks ago almost, so I've gotten over it, I guess. The first thing I said when the Giants lost that game, I'm okay with them losing to get a draft pick, but to blow that lead to the Jaguars of all teams, the only thing that saved the Giants from being the worst team in the NFL that week was the Raiders' 52-0 loss to St. Louis. That was it. I legitimately thought the Giants were the second worst team in the league. Seriously, I really did. Because that's embarrassing. That was absolutely embarrassing. Now that they blew out the Titans, but probably the third or fourth worst team in the league. Because it's the Giants, they're probably going to finish 7-9 because they just do that stuff. They're just weird. They started out 0-6 last year. Everyone was hoping for a top 5 pick, and they get 12. They got Odell Beckham Jr., who was an animal. But if they finish 7-9, I'm going to be really mad, and here's why. The Giants do not draft based on their team needs. If they did, they wouldn't have gotten Odell Beckham Jr. The Giants draft on who they think is the best. That's why they got Beckham, because in the Giants' minds, they thought he was the best player remaining. And he has sure showed that. But are there any... I'm not a college football savant. But I don't think there are any guys that you can get in a mid-round draft pick that will flash your eyes like Odell Beckham this year. If they keep winning, they're going to get a worse player. If they drafted based on team needs, a 7-9 record or 6-10 wouldn't be too much of an issue. But they don't draft like that. They draft based on who they think is good. And that's why if they get a top 5 pick, they'll probably get Amari Cooper. And then they'll have 3 insane receivers. Victor Cruz, Beckham, and Amari. I'm not a fan of tanking. I hate it. I think if you do it, you should be fined. But a 7-9 record is the worst thing they can possibly do. Oh, and by the speaking of bad things to do, that game against the Titans, it was 36-7. You have 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The game's over. Your season has been over for 3 weeks, if not more. Why are you leaving Eli and Odell Beckham in the game? Eli Manning has been healthy. Giant fans have been very lucky. He hasn't missed a start since his NFL debut. I don't even know what his streak is at right now. But to risk injury for him and Odell Beckham Jr., who is, right now, if he didn't miss the first 4 weeks, he would probably win Rookie of the Year. And he still has a chance to win Rookie of the Year either way. Why were they in? In the first play, they threw a bomb to Beckham. And he had to dive and fall on the ground. That's like, what is that? You're up 30 points. Your season's been over for 4 weeks. Take them out. Don't risk injury, because you already lost Victor Cruz for a year. He might not even be back week 1 next year. Don't take a risk in losing your best receiver, probably the best receiver in the class, maybe a top 10 receiver in the league. Like, why do they... I don't understand the Giants. I really don't. I think their front office is ridiculous, and sometimes I don't understand the way they play. More New York football. The New York Jets, 2-11. They had a killer loss against the Vikings. But are they even mad? Are Jet fans even mad? If anyone's mad about that loss, it's Rex Ryan because he doesn't want to lose his job. But, I mean, this is another team who just, they flat out stink. And everyone knows that they need help. The one thing that I do like that they're doing, though, is playing Geno. You know what Vic has. And Geno played really well in the preseason. He played exceptional. He played exceptionally well. Why not just give him one more chance? I feel like this is his preseason all over. Like, he's trying out again. Maybe he can perform. I mean, he said that he has shown flashes of a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Keyword, flashes. And he's right. People just don't think that way because, in general, he has just been playing poorly. But if you throw a 50-yard perfect pass, that's a flash of a Pro Bowl quarterback. I think what he's saying is getting taken way out of context. But that's what the media does with New York, especially the New York Jets. Everything gets taken way out of context. Whatever. Call me crazy. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I do not think the Jets should draft a quarterback. I don't think they should draft Mariota or Winston. If they do, I think it should be Mariota. I think his turnover ratio is incredible. And I just think he's a flat-out stud. He's winning the Heisman. I think he's incredible. But anyway, I don't think they should draft a quarterback because the only way the Jets offense can succeed with their weapons right now is if you have a legendary quarterback like Brady or Peyton or Rodgers or Breeze. That's it. Anyone else, this team is not succeeding on the offensive side of the ball. They have no weapons. Eric Decker and Percy Harvin are your 2 receivers. After that, it's complete garbage. Jay Samaro, whatever. They have no running game. I thought Chris Johnson was going to be a 1,200-yard, 1,300-yard rusher this year. He's stunk. Chris Ivory, whatever. Bilal Powell, I don't even know. I think if I'm the Jets, I'm spending money in the offseason on veterans. You have $20 million to spend. You're $20 million under the cap. And remember, $20 million under the cap you can get 3 or 4 players with that. Because remember, the salary cap is just per year. It's not total. They spend money on good weapons. If they get one more solid receiver before the NFL draft, then yes, you can draft a quarterback in Mariota or Winston. But other than that, I don't think drafting them is a good idea. That you have to get weapons first and then worry about the quarterback position. That's just my theory. That's just my thinking. I know it's odd, but that's my opinion. You can't succeed without weapons unless if you're one of the 4 guys I mentioned before. Speaking of quarterbacks, and I can't believe I'm doing this because I hate how ESPN talks about guys who they take a shower and it's breaking news. But I mean, this is important because Johnny Manziel is taking over the starting job in Week 15. Week 15? Yeah. I mean, that is a big story. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, when the talks first started going on, saying that Manziel should start, I thought it was a terrible choice. I thought it was just a bad idea. I didn't think that it was a good idea to put Manziel in the middle of a playoff race with 4 or 5 games left in the year. The guy has never been in an NFL postseason playoff race. The guy has never even started a football game before in the pro level. But Hoyer has been terrible. Brian Hoyer has been awful. No touchdowns, 7 interceptions in the last 3 games. He's missing targets. I'm not saying Manziel is going to go off, but I think right now he can play better than – it's very hard to play worse than what Brian Hoyer is doing right now. And eventually, Johnny Manziel is going to be this team's franchise quarterback. That's just how it is. He's going to be their guy. And with Brian Hoyer stinking, I think right now is a very good time to put Manziel under center. A friend and I were talking about this the other day. We were thinking if Manziel is going to slide or not, because the guy's going to run. I think 2 things. The 2 options of him sliding are this. It's either A, he's going to slide to show the Cleveland front office his football IQ, and once he shows that, Cleveland, the front office is going to like him a lot more, and he's going to basically secure his starting spot for next year and beyond. Or B, he's not going to slide because he wants to just show off, try to get a lot more yards, and try to act like a football player. If he were smart, he'd choose option A, but because this is Johnny Manziel, don't be surprised if he chooses option B. I think Manziel, I don't think he's going to lead them to the playoffs. But I do think Manziel can perform. I think he will do all right. People are saying Cam Newton, let's hope he feels better. That stinks. I would never wish that on anyone. But people who have Cam Newton in the playoffs for fantasy are saying, I'm going to drop Cam and I'm going to pick up Johnny. And I think that's a good idea. I mean, unless if Manziel really stinks, then, I mean, what good has Cam Newton done this year? Not much anyway. But I think if you want to pick up Manziel, it's a good plan. Moving on to the little guys in football, talking about the college football playoff. Here are the rankings. The teams who will be playing for the I can't remember the official name of it now because they changed it, but the top 4 are Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, Ohio State. I agree with the rankings 100%. And I think the reason why people disagree with the rankings was because TCU was ranked 3rd going into their game against Iowa State. That was the College Football Playoffs Committee's biggest mistake. They had a team ranked third. They blew out a team. They're not in the playoff, and they're not in the playoff now. The reason why they're not in the playoff was because Ohio State blew out Wisconsin 59-0, I think it was. I mean, yes, they showed that they were a better team than TCU, but I don't think. First of all, I didn't think TCU was a top 3 team in the nation anyway, but it was a bad decision. They shouldn't have moved Florida State to number 4. They started the season at number 1. They haven't lost in 2-3 years. They got moved to 4. I think part of that has to do with the committee wanting Alabama and Jameis Winston to play each other. But you have to throw that aside. I mean, obviously they're going to want rankings, but no matter what, people are going to watch this thing. This is one of the biggest stories of the year, with the whole BCS getting defunct and a whole new system coming into play. This is a big story. People are going to watch this playoff system no matter who plays. They shouldn't have put TCU at the 3 ranking. Ohio State wouldn't be in the playoff if they didn't blow out Wisconsin. That's just simple. And then they moved Florida State back to the 3 after after they didn't kill Georgia Tech. The rankings going into that week should have been Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, TCU. And then TCU and Ohio State should have just swapped. That's my opinion. I think if Ohio State didn't blow out Wisconsin, the rankings, in my opinion, should have been Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, TCU. People are already talking about expanding the playoff system. Why? This is great. 5 years from now, move it to 6 teams, I think. I think that's a good idea. But for now, keep the system. Why change it already? It's a year. It's a year old. And it's been great. The only reason why people are upset was because TCU was ranked 3rd in the nation. If they were ranked 4th where they should have been, the people wouldn't be too upset with the system right now. And 8 is way too much for now. People want 4 to 8 in 2-3 years. No way. 10 years, maybe, go to 8. But for now, keep it at 4. In a couple years from now, move to 6. Give 1 and 2 buys. Because imagine there were 6 teams. You would have the top 4, Baylor and TCU. That would have been great. Top 8, who would have been? Ole Miss and Mississippi State? I don't know. But if you left it at 8, I think the first round would have been blowouts. I think Alabama would have killed the 8 seed. I think Oregon would have killed the 7 seed. My opinion, but whatever. I think Alabama is going to beat Ohio State. I think Oregon is going to give Florida State their first loss because Florida State struggled against Georgia Tech's option offense. And Oregon offense, unbelievable. Why do you think Marcus Mariota is winning the Heisman? So my college football championship game is Oregon and Alabama. I'm giving that to Alabama. I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon wins because, again, their offense is incredible. But for now, I'm giving it to the Tide. Moving indoors to the ice. Not going to talk about the Rangers or the Devils because not much has changed. The Rangers are whatever. The Devils are struggling. They're losing in shootouts again. They can't play defense, and they're not scoring a lot of goals. But anyway, Marty Brodeur made his St. Louis Blues debut on Thursday, I think, last week, either Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was a good choice to start Marty against Nashville. They've been one of the best teams in the NHL right now. He looked all right. His third goal, though, the first goal of the second period, looked absolutely awful. I don't know what he was doing in net. But again, Nashville was a good competition to see what Marty has left. And honestly, shame on the Devils. I get that they didn't want him anymore, but this guy is the best goalie of all time. He had 688 career wins. He's going to get to 700. It's not going to be in the Devils uniform. When he wins his 700th game, which will most likely be in a Blues uniform unless he gets traded or whatever, that moment is not going to be as special for the NHL. It's not going to be as special for Marty himself, because I'm sure that he wants to be in the Devil uniform. And the Devils just didn't want him. That's just how the business is. And the Devils moved on. They got Schneider, who has been struggling, but overall the guy's a pretty decent goalie. And they have solid backups in Clemenson and Kincaid. But I think they should have signed Marty. I think that just for legacy's sake, I mean, you can have the typical sign a one-day contract and retire as a Devil, whatever, but it's not the same. The guy's going to win 700 games. No goalie has ever won 600 besides Marty, and it's not going to be in a Devils uniform. Would he be an asset to the Devils? No. But overall, legacy-wise, they should have kept him. All right, that is going to do it for yet another episode. Thank you very much for listening. It was an honor to do this. Talked about a lot of baseball, which is awesome. Football is always fun to talk about. Hockey, I know like 3 people watch that sport in this country, but I'm a fan of it. So thank you very much for tuning in. Once again, it's not goodbye. See you later. So long, everybody.